Hey everyone, Golden Ninja 3000 here again. I'm once again at BrickCentric LA 2026, and today I'm talking to Alice Finch, who is the co-founder of Women's Brick Initiative. Alice, for people who might not know, can you tell us a little bit about Women's Brick Initiative, what it is, what your mission is?
Yes, so we're an organization focused on supporting women and other underrepresented populations within the Lego landscape. To find the resources that they need, to find community, to be inspired and empowered, to have confidence in whatever particular form of Lego hobbyship that they find interesting. So we have workshops, have a website, we do research, we address bias, and we make sure that when we come to an event like this, that people have a place where they can have community. Find people that share their interests and support.
And I was lucky enough to attend a couple of your workshops. So when I first started working for BrickLink at BrickWorld Chicago in 2023, I remember coming to your workshop, which was led by Megan Lum, who's a contributor to BrickSet as well. And I had no idea that you guys existed. I had no idea that any of this, that this was a thing at all, right? But I found it very interesting because I haven't done research and data the way that you guys have. But I've noticed a couple of things, I don't know if I've said it publicly before, but I've certainly noticed that, all of the black female minifigure heads are always angry.
Yep.
Right? I remember being really annoyed that with the Lego Marvel minifigure series 1, all of the women were smiling, Wanda, Sylvie. They've got this stupid lopsided grin. I'm these are characters that are tortured, that are upset, that are rageful, and Lego gives them two smiling faces. They don't have the powerful face like the men. They don't get to use their powers, express their emotions as much.
Yes.
And so I know you guys have done some data around that. And
yes.
I guess it's kind of hard to talk about without the full visual aid and everything.
I wish I had my papers with me, but we have analyzed head prints to look not just at the disparity between masculine and feminine prints, which is enormous, but also at the bias between white presenting and people of color. There's thousands more for white people than there are for black and brown folks. And also that the people of color are more expensive and more expensive sets. And so accessibility is a thing. Even if you wanted to diversify your minifigs, it's difficult to do because there are fewer of them and they're more expensive. We've also looked at facial expressions. So I think we have 8 facial expressions, and we've analyzed every single head based on smiling, frowning, angry, and then sort of other things like face paint or glasses and things. And there are dramatically fewer heads for women and facial expressions that are sort of what I call everyday, not normal, but every day, ones that you can use in cities or fantasy or whatever it might be. And sort of the need for addressing greater diversity in an accessible way.
And I mean, I'm a big superhero fan, so I approach a lot of things from the superhero angle, even when I'm trying to make custom minifigures of Marvel characters. I've looked at every white female minifigure head in the BrickLink catalog so many times. And even though they are overrepresented compared to other groups, there still not enough. There's still not heads that I can get to make Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Thunderbolts, Yes. The closest head is her Seinfeld character. It's it's really hard to just find a neutral,
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because we also looked at the data of how often female heads are reused as compared to how often male heads are reused.
Don't even get me started on the Jyn Erso face print is everywhere.
Right, exactly. You have one head print and they'll use it from many different actresses, as opposed to on the male presenting side, they have 6 heads for the same person, as opposed to reusing it from both. So it's diametrically opposed in terms of how sort of resource scarce the feminine head prints are, for sure.
And my personal hatred, I wish I had a little, an aid with me, but it's the female hairpiece where it's the over-the-shoulder part that is used on so many female minifigures when it doesn't represent their hair at all. And Lego has, even today, better pieces to represent their hair, even if you're not making a new mold. Right. And yet everyone still gets stuck with this stupid over-the-shoulder hairpiece. I think it's less bad now than it was in 2020, but I remember just 2020, 2021, I got so annoyed.
It seems to sort of come in phases because the color spectrum has gotten more like there's more blondes, there's more browns,
And we
right?
have new skin tone colors.
we have
I
new
was
skin tone
really happy to
colors.
see those
Yes.
introduced.
But also in the last year or two, the increased diversity of black presenting hair that's coded for black people. Now we have more than the afro now. We have 5 or 6 different with braids, and so there is some attention to that. What I would like to see is more attention to now the head prints to go with those coded hair pieces. So yes, there's progress. Yes, there's more availability, but there's still so many ways that it can yet be improved.
I agree, and I think part of the problem is that a lot of these things are just coming in from these IP sets because, take for example, like Black women. A lot of those face prints are coming from the Black Panther sets,
Yes.
where the women are warriors.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
makes sense that they have, like these stern expressions, these forceful
Yes.
expressions. But then it's like, I remember looking on BrickLink a few years ago, and it's like only 2 Black female head prints weren't from the Black Panther sets.
Yes.
And I'm like, I can't fault. I'm glad that they're making accurate faces for the Black Panther women,
Right.
but it's like, why are those the only women that we're getting
Right.
as Lego minifigures?
Or the Monica head from what is it, Marvel, right? Captain.
Yeah. Or they made a face print for Maria Rambeau in that San
that's what it is.
Diego
Monica's the
Comic-Con
daughter,
set.
right? Yeah, Maria Rambeau, but it's in the Comic-Con set, and
And it's never been reprinted.
It's just not
ever.
available.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm personally interested in like
Yes.
Women's Brick Initiative and you guys' research and your findings, because I mean, I'm sure there will be people that say like this stuff doesn't matter. I think it does matter, right? Everyone does want to feel represented. I am, a brown man.
Yes.
I can't find a head that has
Yes.
glasses. I wear glasses.
Right.
All of my sig figs don't have
Right.
glasses on because I don't want to be. I think I had to be Raj from The Big Bang Theory when I first made my sig
Right.
fig. There's no option for an Indian man wearing glasses,
Right.
or like someone that doesn't have a beard, right?
Right.
And so I would really like to see more of these face prints, and I'm glad that Lego has been doing it. Like we have the table football set, we have the Pharrell
Yes.
set. Those have brought in a
Yes.
lot of new heads. The distribution of them hasn't been so great because they're
Right.
like locked behind these expensive sets.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're getting out there and that they are investing in like the new prints.
I would love to see flesh tone minifig parts being available in the Build a Minifig boxes. That is the single most effective way to
That is a great
distribute
idea.
greater diversity into the Lego minifig ecosystem, is to make them available as BAM parts. Because then it's not dependent on the price of the set, it's not dependent on IP, it's dependent solely on retail stores, which is the way you can reach an awful lot of people in the simplest form.
That is a cool idea. Yeah, I would like to see that. Like they don't need to get rid of the yellow heads, but I would like
You
to
just
see.
add that into the mix.
I'd like to see those heads
That's
brought in there. That's
the
a great idea.
inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
You start with that.
Great. And I did want to talk about your builds a little bit.
Okay.
They have not been in shot so far, unfortunately. But we have these portraits that you talked about
Yes.
yesterday. So would you like to explain kind of the thought process behind these?
Yes, so this is part of a collaboration with Blacklug. And the idea is that we can all do a better job of being aware of amazing women. And in this case, we're focusing on Black women of power. And the hope is that an individual can contribute a 32 by 32 portrait of a Black woman of your choice, past, present, or fantastical, and be inspired by her work and whatever she has contributed. And when you see them, you have the initials to sort of hint at who it might be if you're unfamiliar with who they are. This is Tarana Burke, who is the founder of the Me Too movement. This is Surya Bonali, who was the first person to demonstrate a backflip in figure skating 30 years ago. This is Bell Hooks, who is an amazing, inspiring feminist writer. And this is Marsha P. Johnson, who is important in the trans community. And The idea is to encourage people to think about this and to find a way to represent that. And so I very intentionally done 4 different styles just to expose people to the possibilities of how you might do this.
That's really cool. I definitely noticed the different styles when I saw you setting up over here. And I think that that's fantastic because, for example, like I would probably be able to most easily do something with studs and tiles. And so I really love that you've shown how accessible it can be to build
Yes.
and to design these things.
Yes, exactly. Right.
And they're very informative because unfortunately the only person here that I've known about before this conversation is Marsha P. Johnson.
Yes. Yeah. But it's sort of like, oh, I don't know who this is, but I can use the clue of maybe the style of how it's built, right? I don't know who this is, but obviously they're figure skaters. So
Yes,
how
yeah.
can I use that as a way to find out more? Yeah, trying to make it accessible, but also encouraging of people stretching their wings and doing something new that they may not have done before. So,
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, or I was going to say sitting down, but I guess standing up for a quick interview with me.
Yes, of
and,
course.
you know, I hope to keep running into Women's Brick Initiative at more LEGO conventions
I hope so
around
too.
the world, across the country.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
Thank you.